If you know or understand the narrative that those guys have propagated to distort the truth, if you know or understand the damage done, there's no way you will not be emotional. There's no way you will not be, you won't have this holy anger that what? Why did you guys propagate, frustrate the truth, change the entire narrative just to suit your purpose, your agenda? And this is exactly what the palm colored people did. The colonial masters, the Europeans, they thwarted the truth. They washed down the truth. They confused everybody from knowing the truth. And that's exactly what they did. Watch this video and I'll be right back to talk more about it. Don't go nowhere. This is Keisha's Watch. I'll be right back. Credit belongs to original creators.
Him. DNA, so ancient, so powerful, it rewrote the story of the entire human race. He was a quiet black man from South Carolina. No fame, no riches, just blood that held a secret the world wasn't ready for. When scientists tested his Y chromosome, they were shocked. It didn't match any known lineage. It didn't fit any European profile. In fact, it was older than anything they had ever seen. His DNA proved something terrifying to those in power, that every human alive today descended from a variation of a black genetic blueprint. And just like that, he became a threat, not for what he did, but for what he was. This is the story they tried to erase. But today, we're bringing it back, because the truth was in his blood, and somebody didn't want you to know it. What if I told you that a black man's DNA, discovered by accident, completely shattered that narrative? His name was Albert Perry, and when scientists tested his Y chromosome, they found something so ancient, so impossible, it sent shockwaves through the genetic community. His DNA didn't match any other group on Earth. Not Native American, not European, not even other African lineages. It was older, hundreds of thousands of years older. Older than the pyramids, older than written language, older than modern humans themselves. And the most shocking part? It was discovered in a black man living in America. So ask yourself, if Albert Perry's DNA is older than any known human lineage in the Americas, what are they hiding? History is not written by those who tell the truth. It's written by those who own the pen. And for over 400 years, the pen has never been in our hands. They told us our story began on slave ships. They told us we were rootless, voiceless, nameless. They told us we had no past, only pain. But what they never told us is that the truth was in our blood all along. From the moment the first Europeans set foot in the Americas, they began rewriting the past. They silenced the voices of the black indigenous tribes they encountered. They burned villages. They renamed rivers. They erased nations. Because if the world knew the truth, that black people were already here long before Columbus, then the entire system of conquest, colonization, and control would fall apart. So they replaced history with myth. They taught our children that we were nothing but former slaves. They told us our ancestors came from Africa with no civilization, no science, no sovereignty. They said we were discovered, as if we didn't already exist. But the truth has a funny way of surviving. It hides in places they can't reach, in songs, in stories, in stone carvings. And now, in science. For years, mainstream genetic studies avoided African American DNA. They studied European lineages, they studied Asian migrations, they traced the movements of Neanderthals and ancient Nordic tribes, but they rarely touched African Americans. Why? Because if they ever studied us deeply, if they ever cracked open the code of our DNA, they'd find something terrifying. Not just a connection to Africa, but to something even older, something that didn't fit into their timeline, something that couldn't be explained by slavery. They would find that we didn't just come from Africa, we came from the beginning. And in 2013, when scientists stumbled upon the DNA of Albert Perry, a man who had passed away in quiet obscurity, they weren't ready for what they found. They expected to see the usual ancestry breakdown. Instead, they found a genetic anomaly so ancient, so powerful, that it threatened to rewrite human history, starting with the Americas. And what did they do? They didn't announce it to the world. They didn't put it on the news. They didn't make it required reading in classrooms. They buried it, tucked away in scientific journals, labeled it an outlier, filed it under further research needed. But we're not outliers. We're not accidents. We're not invisible. We are the origin they've been trying to hide. And now the truth is rising. Albert Perry wasn't famous. He didn't write books. He didn't lead revolutions. He wasn't the subject of documentaries or celebrated by scholars. He lived a quiet life in South Carolina, in a world that told him his past began in slavery and ended in struggle. But what Albert Perry didn't know, what no one could have imagined, was that his body carried a secret older than civilization itself. It all began after his death. One of his relatives submitted a DNA sample to a commercial genetic testing company as part of a family tree project. The goal? To learn about their African roots, the usual migration stories, maybe some tribal connections, and the typical breakdown most African Americans get. But what the scientists found was something they couldn't explain. Albert Perry's Y chromosome, the genetic strand passed from father to son, generation after generation, didn't match anything in their global database. Not a single known lineage. Not from Africa, not from Europe, not from Asia, not from anywhere. It wasn't just rare, it was unprecedented. His Y chromosome was so genetically distinct, so ancient, that it didn't even fall on the modern human family tree. It stood alone, like a towering monolith of forgotten history. How old was it? Over 338,000 years. That's older than the oldest known Homo sapiens fossils. Older than anything science had ever traced in the human genome. Older than the so-called Y chromosomal Adam, the theoretical common ancestor of all living men. Let that sink in.
All right, racist.
This black man's DNA was older than Homo sapiens, older than the bones found in Ethiopia, older than the 300,000-year-old remains discovered in Morocco. The moment they saw it, scientists realized something terrifying. Everything we were taught about where humans came from and when they emerged might be wrong.
This is a continuation of yesterday's lecture, continuing down the anthropology journey, since it's a common rebuttal thrown around by the natives. We uncovered the anthropology of the Black American woman yesterday. Today, it's about the originality of the Black American man. When scientists examined the DNA of Albert Perry, an indigenous Black American man from South Carolina, they uncovered a genetic lie. Albert Perry's Y chromosome, the strand of DNA passed from the father to the son, didn't fit into any known genetic category. His genes were much older than any genetic record they had of anyone they tested. The discovery, published in 2013, revealed that Albert Perry carried haplogroup A00, which is the oldest known male lineage ever identified. And this lineage is believed to date back more than 300,000 years. Long before the appearance of Homo sapiens as we know them. In other words, this South Carolinian carried within him the oldest genetic signature of the human race. Albert Perry's genetic code forced science to acknowledge that human history is far more direct than the textbooks suggest. It also reaffirms what Black Americans have been saying. Black people, but namely Black Americans, are the start of life. While the Maxwells and the Rothschilds are paying idiots to tell everyone that Black Americans are from Africa, the more we look into South Carolina, the more we start to realize that may just be the location where American life began. There was such an effort into destroying the power of the indigenous people of the Carolinas, like the 1740 Negro Act of South Carolina, which criminalized literacy and erased distinctions between Negro, mulatto, and Indian. It was also the start of ownership and controlling every element of a person's life based on race. It happened long before this, but this was when it was codified into law. The hatred and the concerted effort to destroy the heritage and history of the Black Americans only proves that the Black experience is a living continuation of an ancient global lineage. Harry's Y chromosome reminds us all that human civilization did not begin in captivity. It began in consciousness. Genealogy is higher than spirituality, because knowing your bloodline reveals who you are and how long you've been here. And Albert Perry's DNA rewrote science, which means, Black Americans, it is now your responsibility to rewrite your understanding of yourselves. Don't let people who are inferior to you and are ashamed of their origin story convince you to be ashamed of yours. Whether you call yourselves Moor, Hebrew, Indigenous, the truth is this: your ancestors built and governed this land long before the idiots arrived. You have every right to be proud of that, and to remind everyone every day if you want to. This land is yours.
Imagine the DNA of a Black American being examined, and they found that it went back to over 300,000 years. It couldn't be traced to anybody in this present time. It can only be traced back to 300,000 years back, and nobody was found worthy to equate the longevity of the bone of this man. His name is Albert Perry. So the story that, oh, Black Americans, they came from Africa, this guy's DNA made that to be irrelevant, made that story to be false, made that narrative to be untrue. And this is a fact. Even this man's son, his DNA is not, can be traced. They are not in tandem. They're not. It's like you give birth to his son and your DNA is far older than him. DNA, I'm not talking about blood, DNA. So it simply means that the narrative that, oh, Black Americans, oh, they were brought from Africa, or Black, they are saying that they are even older than Africa, because even the word Africa, is not true, right? But let's not talk about that today. So this man's DNA was even older than the Homo sapien, the story that we're told, that the stages of life, the Homo sapien, Homo erectus. This guy's DNA is older than all of that. So what does that mean? The Black man, the Black origin is the oldest. And guess what? When Black Americans are saying that we are not from Africa, they are also true. This DNA proves that when they are saying that we are the indigenous people of America, it is also true from this DNA, because this man lives in America, Carolina, and his DNA is an indigent of America, and his DNA says that he has been existing with all that. Oh man. See guys, when you know the damage done by these guys, and when you hear facts like this, you just be more hungry. There's what we call only anger. You're like, why did you guys do all of these things? Because these are things that they cannot hide forever. The truth will always prevail. But why would they hide it for too long, thinking that nobody will know about it? That is the question I want to ask. Why would they hide this truth? Why would they make it look like, oh, because there's no what people will not find, and now everybody's finding out. Americans knew quite all right now that they are not from Africa, that they are indigenous to America. All of these things are coming up. Just type information online, give it, and I will spew out. If you know how to use the information, it will tell you exactly what happened. You see, everybody's talking about the origin of creation, where the Black Americans came from, where Africa came from, blah, 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 blah. Now we know that Black Americans were not brought through slave trade. It is a lie. It is total lie. Now we know. And now this latest one is even saying that his DNA was even older than Homo sapiens. Homo erectus, all those stuff we were taught at the beginning of creation, he says it's older than that. So that goes to show that all those signs that came from those guys, I say, hey, the stages of man, it's simply saying that it's also a lie. Because this guy's DNA, Perry Albert or Albert Perry, is older than all those bones found in Ethiopia and Morocco, all of those histories. This guy's DNA is older than that. That goes to show you that a lot of damage was done by these guys. They thwarted, they distort the truth, they change the narrative just to suit their own narrative. Anyway, guys, I have to stop here. But hey, when is that you read something that comes from them, you have to read again and again, do your research, verify before you trust it, because a lot of stories are out there just to suit their narrative. That is all they care to do. They've done a lot of damage to histories and stories of people that you have to do your research before you believe anything or any book that comes from them. This is the truth. Black Americans are indigenous to America. They are older than anything you can come off, anything you can come up with. They are saying that they've been existing, they've been the owners of the land before any of them were even formed or framed, 300,000 years back. Talk to me. What do you think? Let the conversation continue at the comment section. This is Keisha's Watch. I expect your views, your perception, being constructively constructed without casting aspersion. This is for educational purpose. This is for enlightenment purpose, not casting any aspersion on anybody. Thank you guys. Subscribe, like, and share. Bye for now.